Well, ladies and gentlemen, as all of you are aware, things are not looking good for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I feel like that's an obvious thing at this point, but apparently it's not looking good to the point where there is rumors going around now from Insider Gaming that are saying that they're making changes to Yasuke's story and how he's ultimately portrayed in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, I do believe this because they are going to have to do something to save this game because the writing is on the wall, just like we saw the writing on the wall with Star Wars Outlaws. We can see the writing on the wall with Assassin's Creed Shadows, and you gotta imagine Ubisoft is not feeling very confident right now, considering what's happening around their company and the dumpster fire that they found themselves in.
That's a lot of damage. How about a little more?
So we have an article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, Rumor, Ubisoft to make changes to Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed in Assassin's Creed Shadows. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says, Ubisoft is rumored to make significant changes to Assassin's Creed Shadows during the 3-month delay. The company announced and will specifically change Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed. Now, I think that this is probably true, okay, to some extent. Like, I don't think fully, but to some extent. And the reason why I believe that is because right now, the conversation around this game is that it's extremely disrespectful, right? It's very disrespectful to Japanese culture. It's very disrespectful to Japanese in general. And it shows and reeks of just a leftist, like, cesspool. I don't really know how else to put it other than that. It's so obvious that this game was made by a bunch of white liberals over there at Ubisoft. If you look at their teams, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's obvious this game was made by a bunch of white leftists that thought that what they were about to do with Yasuke was going to be the most stunning and brave thing that's ever been done in the history of gaming. You can clearly see they had that kind of like resolve when they were making this kind of game, because nothing is better to them than seeing a 6'3", black man just absolutely decimating small Asian men and bashing their heads in with a fucking mace and cutting them up with a katana. Yeah, like that. There's nothing better to them other than that. That's their fantasy. They dream about that every single day. So they couldn't wait to make a game like this. But here's what I think is happening. I think that in Assassin's Creed Shadows, they probably went overboard with that, right? They probably went so extreme with the Yasuke praising that it essentially would be considered disrespectful to Japan. And when Japan got their hands on it, or at least saw this game for what it was, there was going to be a massive amount of backlash and hate. Considering the amount of hate they got before the game even came out, imagine the amount of hate they would get when the game actually came out and it got into the hands of players and they realized just how much Yasuke was being propped up at the expense of Japan. It says Ubisoft officially delayed the game last week, announcing in a press release, which we already went over. The game is being delayed for whatever reason. There's a lot of rumors around that. People are saying it's bugs. I don't think it's bugs. I think that they're going to be changing things and trying to add things to try to make it seem more respectful to Japan, which is just going to lead to more bugs and more issues because they're going to be rushing everything, in my opinion. According to Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming, the polishing of the game includes changing some of Yasuke's story and how he is portrayed in the game, fixing architectural details, which is something that people have called out a lot, right? The Chinese architecture that they used in Assassin's Creed Shadows, that's kind of stupid considering the game takes place in Japan, but that's neither here nor there. And then ensuring the game is historically grounded while fitting into the Assassin's Creed universe. Well, you're never going to actually get there, right? No matter what you do, no matter what you say, so long as Yasuke is the main character, everybody's going to know exactly what you're doing, and you're never going to be quote-unquote historically grounded. I just don't think that's possible, right? Of course, Yasuke is a real historical figure that has been, completely overblown by a liar like Thomas Lockley, who has been called out and caught to be a liar, mind you, but still, people believe his book as like the fact, right? Like Thomas Lockley's book is the fact about Yasuke, when in fact, all it actually is the greatest fiction about Yasuke. But still, Yasuke's story is a story that is going to be told through the eyes of a heavily leftist Ubisoft, and it's going to be a very typical story of, we can showcase a black guy completely destroying Asians. Who wouldn't want to see that? It's just so ridiculous. Then Henderson also added that the game is currently not at the stage it needs to be for release, and I'm told that there have been some tweaks to some gameplay mechanics and elements that are going to take some time to incorporate. If that is true, and the game is not even at the point where it's ready for release, and we were like a month away, 2 months away from release, That's insanity, right? At this point, it's very clear that Ubisoft is being heavily mismanaged. And the people who are over there, whether it's because they have a bunch of DEI hires or whether the leaders are incompetent, or it could be a little bit of both. At the end of the day, man, somebody is incompetent somewhere at Ubisoft if you were that close to release and you didn't have a game that was ready. There's no way you're going to be able to fix a game that's that underperformed. There's no way you're going to fix it in just like 6 months. How are you going to fix it in 6 months, 5 months like that? If you were able to do that, then the game would be able to be ready for release at release date. Considering that that's not true, then that makes me think that there's no way in hell you're going to be able to fix this game. They're going to do the bare minimum to get the game to viability, to get the game to the point where they can release it, and they'll fix it later. I'm telling you right now, Ubisoft is going to release Assassin's Creed Shadows very buggy. I wouldn't say extremely buggy, but I would say very buggy. Whether it's going to be as bad as Star Wars Outlaws, that's to be seen. But it's going to be released buggy. There's no way it's not going to be. Not only did it reveal these changes, but he also shared that Ubisoft was not as dedicated to historical accuracy as multiple developers have claimed. Henderson shared that historical experts were brought onto the project much later than usual for a project of this magnitude, and that miscommunication between teams and cutting corners when it came to the approval process of assets to meet deadlines resulted in many of the historical and cultural concerns that have been raised by gamers. So basically, they brought on experts, if you want to call them that. They brought on experts too late, which resulted in a lot of assets being Googled, because that's really what it means. The assets were Googled, and somebody probably Googled Chinese buildings or Japanese buildings and ended up seeing Chinese buildings thinking, yep, that looks similar enough. Let's put that in there. You know what I'm saying? They don't actually care. They just want to do the simplest work they possibly can to give the image that they actually care, but they don't really care. I mean, look at these two. You think these two give a fuck? This person right here, this is who they brought in to be the expert, right? The Japanese expert on literature and culture. You know what her expertise is? Her expertise is in the gay relationships of Buddha and their young boys. That is her expertise. Let that sink in. He also indicated that Ubisoft management has ignored their own developers who have been calling for a delay. He stated 7 developers working on the project said that they have been pushing for a delay for some time, and their situation had even been heard at other studios in the company. And again, Henderson's information appears to corroborate other rumors surrounding the game's delay, which came from Brazilian YouTuber TVPH, which we covered in a previous video. So ultimately, guys, obviously, Assassin's Creed Shadows not looking too good. We know that. I'm sure we're going to get more information at the beginning of next year as we get closer to the February new launch date. Whether February actually ends up being the launch date, I mean, that's up to you to decide. I mean, I really don't know at the end of the day. But I feel like if you're going to make a game with Yasuke as the main character, and you put Yasuke in there because you wanted to do a massive virtue signal, because obviously we have a lot of women at the helm of this shit, and that's what they like to do. If you want a virtue signal, you're going to choose Black History Month to be the month to release Assassin's Creed Shadows. That would be the ultimate virtue signal. That would be like the Super Saiyan 4 version of virtue signaling at this point. Ultra Instinct virtue. I really don't know. It's so obvious. I don't understand how people don't see this. I feel like people want to be woefully ignorant. I feel like there's people out there that just don't want to admit what's happening because they want to live in the Matrix, if you catch what I'm saying. Like they want to live in a world where they can just say none of this is happening. La, 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 give me my games, let me consume. And developers like this love people like that. They love people that don't question anything. They love people that just take whatever they say as fact. And it used to lead them to a lot of sales, but now, unfortunately for them, that's just not the case anymore. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.